In this video, we're going to be talking about inking, everything that is involved in a nozzle test and how your colors come out. I'm going to do a nozzle test here and it's going to be imperfect. And from there you're going to understand all the steps we take until all our inks are coming out properly. Together, alright, let's go. On the menu here, I'm going to do a nozzle test, which simply to do it, I press the right arrow. It says nozzle test here, and then I press enter. Now, if you move closer here, well, you'll find out that it actually is a perfect nozzle test. But the idea was, if any of this is not perfect, I'm going to show you the steps we can take to make sure that your ink is coming out properly. And this is given only if your head is in a perfect working condition. First place we start is at the back where we put our inks. Follow me. Right. From here, we have the inks at the top where we pour each of our colors. Remember, we have the colors C, M, Y, and K. This goes for your DTF machines, UV machines, and deconsolvent machines. With the exception of DTF and UV, which also have an extra ink, which is the fifth one, and that's white. But in terms of our four colors, firstly you have to pour your inks here, of course. Now from the top, they go to what are called cartridges. Now this is the most important ink level. Understand, when you scroll the knob here, at the top of the cartridge, it goes up when you scroll it clockwise and down when you scroll it anti-clockwise. Now what this means is the amount of ink in here is increased as this goes up as we scroll it clockwise like this. This means that it's going to be able to send enough ink to the head. So the first thing to check if a nozzle test is not perfect is, do I have enough ink in the cartridges? And what we want to do here is always make sure that we have the same ink levels for yellow, magenta, cyan, and black. All right. With that being understood, we're going to go to the front again. Let's go. Now, if you check with me, I have 6 dampers on top of the head. 2 are for cyan, 2 for magenta, 1 for black, and 1 for yellow. Ergo, my nozzle test has the same order of 6 nozzles, which I have 6 chambers, black, 2 cyans, 2 magentas, and 1 yellow. Now, how can this not come out properly? Sometimes it's because, to start with, the cap that I have may not be aligned with my printer head. Right. Now I want you to check what happens when the cap covers the head. When the cap goes up, it's going to go up. Now it has covered the head. But as you can see now, it is slightly to the left and the head is slightly to the left and the cap is slightly to the right. But how are we going to fix that? To make sure that our cap is seated exactly at the center of the head. Now stay with me. Here's how we do it. On your pad, you press enter, which goes to menu. From there, you get into the setup menu. And when you're here, you go to the last or second from last option, which says station setup. Now, when you get into station setup, you have a couple of options. And from here, you can set any of the systems that involve capping. To start with, the sideways positioning of the cap is set in station position. The height itself of the cap is set in the cap height. And the height of the wiper, which wipes the head, is set in wipe position, which is this one. All right. To start with, we're going to do a station position. So you enter. And as you can see, the cap lowers. And we're going to bring it up. And as we bring it up, just before it touches the head, I can now move my carriage. See? And now I want to move my carriage to make sure that the cap is at the center. Once I feel that it is at the center, next thing I'm going to do is, if you check with me, this distance here on the cap, it's one thing to make sure it's at the center sideways, and it becomes another thing to make sure that the cap is reaching all the way up so that it can create a vacuum seal here. So I keep moving my cap up until this gap, if you notice, it keeps reducing all the way until it's almost a flat line, something like this. That's what I consider perfect cap height and cap position. From there, I'm simply going to come here, press OK. It tells me save done, exit back. And then that's it. Everything has been saved. So the first thing we set now was the sideways positioning of the cap. Next thing I want to set is the height of the cap. The height of the cap, I simply, in the same station setup menu, I'm going to come to cap height. I enter into the cap height, and again, it lowers the cap like it has done now. From there, I'm going to move my cap up all the way until it touches the base like that. I keep moving it up until, like I said, this positioning of the cap flushes. There's two parts of the cap. I keep moving it up until it's almost a flat line. And from there, you press enter, and it asks you, do you want to save the cap height? Yes, I do. Do you want to save the split position? This one, you don't have to save it. And then after that, if you want to test it to check, it's all up to you. And that's it. So that's about how I adjust my cap height and my cap position. Next thing I want to learn how to adjust is my wiper. Because sometimes you will find out that when the wiper cleans the head, it's not completely able to remove all the dirt on the head. Partially that's because the wiper itself is not clean. But if the wiper is clean, it's supposed to be able to reach the head and wipe it completely. Question is, how do I set the position of the wiper? Here we go. Again in the menu, next thing I'm going to do is I have firstly wipe position. I'm going to get in there. Now wipe position allows me to be able to set at what distance the wiper is going to go up and start wiping the head. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set it, and then I'm going to test it to show you how it does. You always set your wiper after the printer head. So you can see the silver shining part here, that's the head, and I'm going to set my wiper right after that, and then I press enter. It asks me, do you want to save it? Yes. And then do we want to test it? I'm going to go yes, and watch as it repeats that motion. The wiper goes up and it wipes the head, completes it, and that's it. That's a perfect head wipe. And after that, the next thing we're going to set is the height of the wiper itself. Sometimes the wiper is in the right area, but it's not up enough to be able to reach the head. Again, in the station setup menu, you're going to do it. All right, on wiper height. Just one moment. Here we go. Wiper height. We get in there, and as you can see, this is my wiper, and I want to make sure that it's high enough. So what do? I simply raise it up until it's at least able to wipe my head. I can repeat that motion until I see that it is sufficient, like that. I can see that it's completely wiping my head. Now with that being the case, the next thing I'm going to do is okay to set the position. Firstly, I want to save it, and I just did that. Next thing is I want to test it. Enter. Now as I test it, you can see the wiper goes up and it wipes the head perfectly. All right, now in terms of inking, these are some of the key things that I do. And another important thing to do here is what I physically have to do to make sure that everything is fine, which are, with a tissue or with any cloth I have, I'm going to take it and I'm going to use this. This is what is called cleaning solution. There are many brands for it, but we here, together with Nerex and Southern Savannah, we supply it. Right. I put it on my cloth. It can be any cloth, doesn't really matter. Even a tissue like I have here. First thing I'm going to wipe is the wiper itself, because the wiper is what wipes the head, and it needs to be clean itself. As you can see now, it was a bit dirty. So I clean it, and next thing I'm going to wipe is on the cap itself. The rubbery part. Inside doesn't really matter, but I need to make sure that the rubber itself is wiped. Now with these being wiped and everything being aligned, I'm ready to do maintenance, which I'm going to show you again now. If I press the maintenance button here, which is the right button when the machine is on the home, once I press it, it gives me a couple of options. First, I have a clean nozzle. Okay, I have a nozzle test, which I just did there. Then I have a clean nozzle, which is an automatic system where it pumps the ink, wipes the head, and then it does what is called flushing, where it sprays out the ink to open the nozzles. Now, The first thing I do is a manual clean. A manual clean, when you press it, stay with me, all right, you can see the cap is going to go up, and this guy here is supposed to bring out ink. This is the waste ink pipe, and I have to wait until I can clearly see ink flowing without any bubbles into the waste ink bottle. Once this is done, then I'm sure that my cap is aligned and my inking system is fine. All right, I have to intentionally, I have to come here and press exit for the manual clean to stop. Otherwise, if I do not do that, the ink is going to keep pumping until all the ink is finished. All right, that's number one. After I do this, the next part is a clean nozzle. Now I want you to understand, a clean nozzle is a 3-step process of these 3 steps I'm going to mention. First, it does a manual clean. Next, it does a wipe nozzle. And lastly, it does a flush. So these 3 functions here, 1, 2, 3, are combined in what is called a clean nozzle. All right, enter. And as you can see, come with me. Here's the first step of a clean nozzle. You hear that noise? That's the pump. So first thing it does is it pumps. On the second stage, you see that it's going to be ready to use the wiper to then wipe the head. All right. And that's it. The wiper perfectly wipes the head. And after that, the last stage is called flushing or spurting. This is when the head is just spraying some ink into the cap. And after that, everything is fine. All right. Now, once the process is done, the screen is going to move from writing cleaning to finally just writing ready. And as you can see, we are good.